when God does something to further a dream in our story or there's breakthrough, let's celebrate that. But the problem becomes when we want more from that thing, when we want more joy, when we're expecting more joy from it.
So good.
Then it's meant to give, and then our celebration starts to be about disordered love versus proper celebration should reorganize what we love.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 10,000 Minute Podcast.
Hey guys.
Some of us are putting up our hair right now.
Yeah.
Into a man bun, and I'm gonna be real candid right now. It does look really nice.
Is it good?
It's not me.
I feel so free.
I'm in a rough spot here, Tim.
Well, I'm fine
It's
with
not you.
It's not me.
True.
I'm fine with my baldness. So we're just in Costa Rica.
Oh wow.
And
humble brag.
Don't worry about it.
I know that kind of hurt, Chris. He said, "Okay, it was about my hair, but now it's about your trip." Whatever.
I was talking about my baldness.
Okay.
And
Your head looks tan.
it does look tan.
It looks
True.
great. I saw it at church yesterday. And I thought, good job, Tim. You got a little sun.
Thank you. I got a lot of
But
sun.
it gets sun every day, so how's it this much more tan, you know?
Well,
The numbers, they don't add up. Who can crunch the numbers out there for us?
Closer to the equator.
in Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica,
Yeah.
Costa Rica, yeah.
Costa Rica. I was trying to think of something stupid. Okay.
Hanging with Bono,
So,
or-
hanging with Bono.
Yeah.
Which would be a dumb thing that I would say. And they made a lot of jokes about me being a pelon, like a bald guy.
Oh,
Yeah?
wow.
So
You know what I've never seen? You know,
Costa Rican bald guy?
Yeah, never. Never a Hispanic bald man. Have you ever seen one? Ever?
Yeah, my uncle.
Okay. Well, maybe
I'll
I'm
bring
just...
a photo in next time.
Okay, bring a
Show and
photo.
tell. Everyone bring a bald person and just be like, I have
From every
proof.
culture?
I have proof
Yeah.
they exist. Yeah.
I just maybe thought it was only white guys.
So today is on cultural sensitivity.
Yes. We apologize.
Edit that out.
Five different ways.
Yeah, if you're bald and you're Latino, please send a picture.
Okay, no. We're cutting it. We're cutting it right
mean,
there. Cutting it next. Okay. Costa Rica.
You were in Costa Rica with Bono.
I was in Costa Rica with Bono, and he said, "Tim, would you sing one of your songs to me again?" And I just said, "I'm bald."
Wait a minute.
Okay. Anywho, so my name's Tim Timmons, everybody.
Hey, Tim.
What's your name?
It's Chris. Christopher Kyle Cleveland.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right.
It's a perfect
And
name.
my
Don't worry
name
about
is
it.
Emoy Donice, but Emoy is my middle name.
And you have
That's
a bald
all
uncle.
I have to say. I have a bald uncle.
With
He's
his last
sometimes
name
bald.
is Denise.
Sometimes.
His last name is not Donice.
Ooh, this is a plot twist.
Stick around, season 2
Okay.
is juicy.
All right.
Season 2 is
It's gonna be
juicy.
really great. Okay, so you guys, this week we have an amazing. I'd never met her before.
Right.
Had you met her before?
No, but I was able to get my hands on an early release of that book
Yeah.
that she wrote, and it was amazing. The stuff I read, I was so excited.
Yeah. So we've been very excited about this episode specifically, and it did not disappoint. So she's an MFT, which we'll talk about in a bit. Her name is Nicole Zasowski.
Zasowski.
I was kidding. I was totally kidding. Hey,
Yeah.
'Cause
The
isn't
panic
that
in your
Mike?
eyes was all a joke.
isn't that Mike Zasowski?
Mike Wazowski. You're
Wazowski.
a fake fan and it shows, okay? I love Monsters, Inc. Monsters U is such a great art piece. Please,
Oh, you know what?
offend me one more time.
Come to think of it, there are no bald monsters.
I think most of them are.
Yeah, I do too.
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger is not bald.
But
So
we-
that's what we want to talk about today too.
Okay.
But he is, but you can't tell under the fedora. Again, another fake fan. I love that movie. We'll unpack that another
Was he-
time.
I feel
Is
like he
he-
takes his hat off sometimes.
Is he bald?
He's bald.
Oh.
Because of the fire. Guys, we'll cut it. It's too much.
You guys. Just trying to think of Bible characters that were bald.
Right.
Hezekiah,
Moses,
Moses,
Abraham,
Jesus.
Jesus. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
What a thing to prove.
Yeah. You know what? So, however you see yourself today, you guys enjoy this episode with Nicole.
Hey,
Hey, this is Moy. Each episode, we're going to hear from listeners about the impact that practices like this one from season 1 have had in their life. Here's Jen.
Hi, my name is Jen. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and this is my 10,000 minutes practice story from season 1. I struggled 40 plus years with pride, perfection, and self-loathing when I couldn't attain that perfection. Every mistake, no matter how small, had me beating myself up as to how dumb I was, how stupid I was, how unworthy I was. The mirror is our worst enemy. We aren't pretty enough. We aren't skinny enough. This flaw, that flaw, all accentuated by 1,000%. This practice helps me remember what and who God says I am and how He sees me no matter how much I mess up or how badly I see myself. This stuck with me and I have it on a note on my bathroom mirror. No matter what. God lavishes His love on you all day long. Breathe in. You love me. Breathe out. No matter what. Thank you, Tim, for this 10,000 minutes practice. No matter what.
If you found this bit or any other practice helpful, let us know by emailing mail@10,000minutes.com, and we might include your story in a future episode.
Everybody, welcome to the 10,000 Minute Podcast. My name is Timothy Howard Timmons. We've got Amoy Donise.
Hello.
Now, in a different place today, really, to my hot left.
Yeah, it's me,
This
guys.
is the closest we've
it's
been.
me.
Yeah, you two have never really been together.
I don't know. That's why I'm turning this way.
Yeah.
It's new. It's uncomfortable.
Oh,
I'm just
man,
kidding.
just
I'm just
open
kidding.
up.
Yeah.
The Mandisa, and then it's me. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna go this way.
And we've got
Tim can
Christopher
take
Cleveland
Hey,
on the
guys.
far left.
Just rocking it.
I mean, and that's fine. And we can go there politically and all the other things too. It's a safe
I didn't
place.
even think about it. But probably.
We're
He was
doing
like,
that.
then I'm over here. Yes.
And then to my far right, no, this isn't working super well. You do everyone, you do you. There's no judgment here on who you are,
I'm
where
so
you
grateful
fall
for that.
in all those places, because we're just trying to figure out bigger things
goodness.
than those things.
Great.
So, everybody, this is Nicole. Now, Nicole, would you help me out?
Always my first question.
Yes.
Zasowski.
Zasowski.
Yes. Very good.
Because,
That's like kind of how it looks.
yeah, it is. It just, there's
It's
an S.
surprisingly phonetic, but it looks overwhelming.
There's an S here that sounds like a Z, and there's
Yes.
a Z that sounds like a Z, and then there's another S that sounds like an S.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to guess right.
Okay, what was your maiden name?
Wallace.
Wallace.
Wallace. Easier.
It's a great
You know how
name.
much I love my husband because
Yes.
I was willing
That is a
to
big
take
commitment.
that on. It is a big
like
Oh
commitment.
it.
man.
My poor kids always last for everything.
Right.
No.
Didn't even think about
I
that.
know. It's a long road.
I mean, I'm Timmons, so I'm pretty far back there,
Yeah.
but Zasowski is like,
yeah, that's usually the bitter end.
yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know, Z, I can't even think of it. Zasowski.
Zimmerman? Zimmerman might be a little
Yeah,
farther
yeah.
out.
Yep.
Okay, so you are from the Connecticut. That's where you live right now.
Yes. Yes. We've lived there a little over 10 years.
Yeah, because before that you were from the California.
Yes. We lived there for 6 years, and I grew up in Seattle.
I love
from that
Seattle.
whole
So this is the
coast.
fourth
We're all a
corner.
little jealous of Seattle people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am too.
That's so nice.
I would. It's a beautiful part of the country, and I loved being from there and love visiting. So it's a
Touche.
wonderful place.
And just for fun, the guy that you make out with works for Disney.
Yes, yes.
So we've heard.
He does. He does.
Amazing.
yes.
What's he do?
He has more the boring side of Disney.
Okay, that's great.
He
Make
is
it
head
sound
of-
cool.
He is senior vice president of business strategy for Disney.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
welcome, Disney Plus.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a big project.
Right?
Of
I bet it
his.
was. Come
Wow.
Born the same day as my second son, so we didn't see a whole lot of my husband leading up to the birth.
So that's part of what
Wow.
we'd love to talk about today. Just resentment.
With Disney and yeah.
So he's not here. What would you like to say to him? Like,
He actually is in Nashville. He came
is?
just to support me.
oh, you should have come and hung out
He
today.
should have. He should have.
Okay, so why
he's
don't
a
you say,
lot of fun to talk to. He
I
could have
feel
been,
blank when you. Why don't you practice that right here?
We'll send him an episode
I
teaser.
feel loved when he supports me and
Oh,
comes with
wow.
me.
Swish right
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
She
Talk about
said
making
not
out.
today, Satan. That's
Yeah.
what she
That's
said.
right. Not today.
So you are also a shrink.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a marriage and family therapist.
So are you an MFT? Do you have your MFT? What do
Yep.
you? Okay.
Those are my letters.
Okay.
like
That's
'em.
marriage family therapist.
That's what she literally just said.
Monday,
So,
Fridays, and
the
Tuesdays.
bragger
Okay.
in the room. Yeah. What'd you think?
I thought it
Monday?
was just her availability. Mondays, Fridays, and Tuesdays. Okay.
That's good.
Thank
Boy.
you. That's why they keep me,
Gosh, she's so quick. My mom was an MFT as well.
Oh, great.
So,
Yeah, in California, I don't know if that's where she is,
Yes.
but there's a lot of them.
yes, she's awesome. She was on, and it was actually one of our biggest episodes. So we were
Oh,
talking
great.
about grief.
Oh,
Yes.
And
wonderful.
she just laid it down. It was
Ooh,
pretty real.
Yes.
Yeah, Carol is her name.
I
Carol.
can't
what
wait
we're
to
really trying to
listen.
do is bring a lot of therapists on so we don't have to pay. So
Yeah, this is
we'll
more
just
a
see.
barter system.
And you can bill us later.
It's actually true. So Chris and I were on a walk this morning because we go on walks.
I love that. I do too.
And which is really great. And, it's not like we're walking together like in the Christian form. We literally just go on walks.
Right.
And so, but there was something that he said, I was talking about that was like, gosh, I need help in this. It's like, well, let's find somebody for that. So most of you
guess
guys are
who
going to
could
be,
speak to it. Yes.
help us out.
I love that.
So you have a book that's out
Yep.
a month. And your first book was a total awesome timing because it came out a week before a pandemic. What was that?
A few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Before the pandemic hit, it was really great. Just when all your marketing and publicity is happening.
It's supposed to just kill at that
Yes,
point. Yeah,
yes.
get it.
Man.
But this book is very intriguing.
Thanks.
Yes. I mean, your name is intriguing in and of itself. Just all the Z's and the S's. But what if it's wonderful? I love questions. I think Jesus
Me
loved
too.
questions. And it seems to be how he taught, were through great questions. And obviously, you being a therapist, you know the gift of questions.
Yeah.
So we have got none for you. We just wanted to have you just on to talk about who knows. But celebration, we're trying to, with 10,000 minutes, we're always trying to figure out how do we put whatever these wise things are into practice, whether they're Jesus principles or whatnot. How do we put them into practice and not just go, oh, that's a cool book. But what's it look like to put these things into actual life, everyday life practice? So would you just give us a little bit of background on this book? What if it's wonderful? Release your fears, choose joy, and find the courage to celebrate.
Yeah. So a lot of people look at the cover and they read that question, what if it's wonderful? And they assume that it was born out of a season of joy and good news
Right.
and that I have a lot to say about celebration. And I do now. And in part that's true. But really, this book was born out of a season of pain and loss and change. I had walked through about 10 years of chronic loss and grief. And, when you go through loss of any kind, whether it's a season or an event, there's what happened, there's the thing itself, the loss, and then there's the cost. And the cost is the impact to your identity and your sense of safety. And what took me a really long time to realize was that part of the cost for me was that my joy, when I did start stepping into a season that was characterized by more good news and breakthrough, my joy was accompanied by a lot of fear. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that joy is actually the most vulnerable feeling we feel because when you hold something, it is automatically accompanied by the possibility of disappointment or loss.
Is that a thing that joy is the most vulnerable?
Yes, Brene Brown talks a lot about that, and I've certainly realized it to be true as a therapist and in my own life. There's a we think of pain being vulnerable, and certainly it is.
Right.
But this idea of holding something and being able to tolerate enjoying that and not waiting for the other shoe to drop or for there to be a catch to your celebration of some kind. So that really sent me on a quest to understand, what does scripture say about celebration? What does the neuroscience research say about joy and celebration? And why am I so afraid of this? And because I was really grieved, talk about grief, when I woke up one morning and just realized, I've experienced a lot of loss, but a lot of the loss I've experienced is because of my refusal to embrace God's very good gifts in my life. And I thought, I don't want to miss out on my beautiful God-given life because I am so busy trying to prepare for the worst. And so that's how this book was born.
Okay, so you I mean, reading through a bit of your book, as I already have, there are a lot of struggles with losing children. I mean,
Yep.
you lost 3 kids, right? I mean,
Five now.
5 kids.
Yeah.
now. Okay.
wow.
So this is like an ongoing.
It's an ongoing thing. My husband and I have a diagnosis that when I conceive a child, I have an over 50% chance of losing that baby to miscarriage. So there's this tension, and it lasts about 2 months. There's this tension when I do get pregnant, and I definitely want to recognize not every story ends like mine. I now have 3
Right.
healthy children, and I'm so aware that that's not everyone's story. But that waiting period of there being 2 months where I'm trying to have courage to hope and celebrate this life, whether I'm able to know the outcome or not, and sitting in that tension of knowing what could be, but also celebrating what is. And I think regardless of what your story is, I think we all have invitations to do that.
Okay, so practically, what's that look like? Because I love that as a statement, but like
Yes.
practically, when you're like, okay, this sucks. Like this just happened again, and I'm also so grateful for what I have. So you need to have healthy grieving, and also embracing what is. So how does that? How do you help people? How have you learned? What are you learning?
Yes. So
Go.
30, I have a lot to say on
Yes,
this.
yes. We've got 2 minutes left of the podcast. So
Real quick.
Yeah.
So the 30,000 foot view on
perfect.
this.
You know what? This has been such a great time with you, Nicole. Okay, sorry.
I want to hear smarter people than you talk.
Shut it. Nicole, go.
So the 30,000 foot view is, I feel like in general, we tend to look at celebration as a reaction to good news or a reward for an accomplishment. And certainly I'm not diminishing or disparaging celebration that does look like that, because some do, and that's wonderful, and we need to keep celebrating those beautiful things. However, when I started looking at all those feasts and festivals outlined in the Old Testament, and really trying to understand what does celebration look like biblically, a through line was the Israelites didn't celebrate when they were in the mood to do so, or because it was convenient timing, or because they had finished all their work and they wanted to reward themselves, or something awesome happened. They celebrated because it was time to do so. They celebrated in rhythm. And so in general, celebration is a rhythm and a practice that helps us cultivate joy in the lives we're already living, and not merely a reaction or a reward when there's a shift or a change. Again, it can include those things, but this is way more of a discipline and a practice than it is a trophy at the end of a dream realized or a goal achieved or some sort of shift in circumstances. And so within that, when we understand celebration as a practice, what was really important to me in that last section of the book, which gets more practical, I continue in biblical teaching and personal story, but really practical to your question, what does this look like tangibly?
Yeah.
What was important to me is that those practices are accessible to all of us. So if you're in a season of suffering or a season of celebration, you can practice these things. And I'll just talk about a few of my favorites, if that's okay. So the first is this practice of savoring. And savoring celebrates the ordinary. And the reason I love it so much... Savoring celebrates the ordinary.
Okay.
So that's one reason I love it, is you don't have to wait for something to shift. This is about cultivating joy in the life that you're already living. The other reason I love it so much is there's some things going on neurologically in the brain that are not super helpful to our tendency to celebrate. So there's this thing called the hedonic treadmill, which basically means our brains rapidly adapt to joy. So what's new and exciting and maybe the gift that we thought would make us want for nothing else soon quickly fades into the background and the sparkle starts to wear off those things.
Yeah.
The second is a phenomenon that many people are familiar with, but it's worth mentioning, is our brains are just stickier with painful information. So because our brains are so efficient, they're only going to pick up and hold and capture and keep what they think they're going to need, which often is those painful things that we tend to worry about.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that in the book, actually, something about how quick we are to always hold on to those things versus the positive things.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And then the third thing is we have this wonderful, said sarcastically, tendency to tell our joy how it can be improved upon. So maybe you finish a podcast episode and you think, that was an awesome conversation. We totally connected and we had this great conversation. Yeah. Our listeners are going to love it. And then all of a sudden you start thinking, I should have asked that question instead. Or they had this response, but what if they could have had that response, and you start telling your joy what would have made it better. So I say all of that because that's our starting place. The brain left on neutral leans negative. And so savoring is our fight against that. And the way that you do this is you just take a snapshot. I like to do it in the present moment. So when I just have this moment of delight, like literally a snapshot, does not need to be hours long. And you just ask your 5 traditional senses what they're going to remember about that moment. So what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? And what do you feel? And that puts that memory, that moment, in a way that your brain can capture it, keep it, carry it forward, and recall it later, and ultimately celebrate it.
So it's a stacking of stones, if you will.
Yes.
Just a more practical way of...
Yeah, there's an Ebenezer quality to it of this is something that we can return to. And I was talking about this in another conversation and kind of realizing it real time just this morning that, we are so busy trying to capture every moment for social media or, get the picture on our phones. And that's so relationally disconnecting, or at least it can be. And this is a way that keeps us engaged with our lives and you can preserve the memory, but in a way that you can carry it in your heart and stay connected. Probably the biggest practice for tolerating that joy, for hanging on and holding that good gift, is the practice of thanksgiving. We often talk about gratitude and we even use them interchangeably. And I love that gratitude has been a more common conversation in recent years because it helps us notice and name what is good. So the noticing helps us scan our environment for delight in our days. And then the naming puts a structure around it that helps us be able to carry it forward. What we don't often talk about is that, yes, joy is gleaned from gratitude. But Thanksgiving, actually expressing the gratitude we feel to the other person, doubles the joy that we glean from gratitude. So just sharing that with the person doubles the joy that we would have had we simply felt grateful.
Make that, give me a story behind that or an illustration.
So when I am sitting with a friend and just feeling really thankful for this person's presence in my life, I would glean some joy from just noticing, wow, I love this person and they've made such a difference. Their friendship has made such a difference to me. Versus if I look them in the eye and say, I need you to know this is the difference you make by being in my life. These are the ways that I've grown because you're my friend and the ways that you love me and challenge me. Here's why my life is better because you're in it. That just throws gasoline.
Yeah. So you're saying that the first part of that was just thankfulness. It's like, I'm so thankful that they're in my life.
Gratitude's the feeling. Yep. And then the thankfulness is actually, I'm going to tell you.
A shared
It's
joy.
a shared thing.
Yep.
It's a shared celebration. Okay.
Yep.
Love that.
And when we think about my favorite story on this is the healing of the 10 lepers, and they all cry out to Jesus. You know, they've got nothing to lose by calling out to him and asking for healing. And he tells them, go to the temple, which is traditionally the next step you take after being healed. So they had to have faith that they'd be healed on the way. Sure enough, they start to see their own healing in the faces and bodies of their friends. We can assume, given the life change that would be, that they all felt grateful.
Yeah.
But only one returned to thank Jesus. And Jesus says, well, weren't all 10 healed?
Yeah, that's good.
And that wasn't merely, I always read that story as like Jesus making a bid for our praise.
Yeah.
And it wasn't merely a bid for our praise. It's Thanksgiving is our opportunity to celebrate the gift with the giver. And this is our opportunity to celebrate with God through Thanksgiving. And so it's that shared
Love
piece
that.
that's so important.
So that's practical.
Yes.
Is what you're trying to say. There were a few questions. You had said, what joys in your life are standing awkwardly in the wrong position? And then what celebration in your life has eclipsed your celebration of God? I thought those were two really interesting questions. I don't know what to do with those questions. Can you give me a little bit more?
I can talk about them.
Yeah.
An honest reflection of my life when I was researching and writing this book was realizing that a lot of the disappointment I feel in life is, yes, in part because of the no or the missed opportunity or the provision looking different than my vision.
Right.
But more often than not, it's because I've expected more joy from the gift than it was meant to give. And so these, what sits at the center of our affection will determine the satiation of our joy.
Ooh, that was another line I wrote down. That was great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Didn't understand it, but it sounded cool.
Satiation.
Yeah.
Spelling. Use that in a sentence, please.
Satire. Sorry, say it again because I totally jacked it up.
No. What sits at the center of our affection will determine the satiation of our joy, meaning there's a lot of beautiful gifts that we all get to experience in our lives. Relationships, good news, opportunities that we get to use our gifts.
Yep.
These are all really good things, and we should celebrate them.
Yeah.
When God does something to further a dream in our story or there's breakthrough, let's celebrate that. But the problem becomes when we want more from that thing, when we want more joy, when we're expecting more joy from it.
So good.
Then it's meant to give. And then our celebration starts to be about, disordered love versus, proper celebration should reorganize what we love. And of course, the only thing that belongs at the center is Christ.
Proper celebration should reorder our love. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Do you guys have any thoughts on things that you hold in those spaces? Or
I've got a lot of thoughts, I think. I think this is like a slam dunk. I mean, as you're talking through a lot of these things, I can place myself in all of these moments. Like you're talking about the first thing when you're taking those snapshots. And I have this similar thing I started doing in my life, and I don't know what I'd call it. It sounds more morbid to me in my head, maybe because of my personality. But but I've tried to start taking these small moments in normal life, like with my kids or whatever, and I just lay in there. And one day this moment came into my head, and so I've tried to keep it attached to it. It's like, if I'm on my deathbed, this is what I'm going to think about. Like all of my kids laying on top of me doing something real normal but amazing. It's like, this is the thing. Not all this stuff I'm chasing, but so I've found a lot of those snapshots and been aware of it. And then as you were talking about doubling your joy, singing about my birthday was just this week. And
happy birthday.
Thanks.
he keeps saying that.
Yeah, I know.
It's not even his birthday.
No, it's
that's the weird. Every podcast.
It's November. And sometimes for my wife, I'll do I always write her letters or something. And she wrote me this poem for my birthday, which was like really, really sweet. And it was almost like when she gave it to me the first day, it was like so much I couldn't react almost, you know? And I knew it was special. And then I like kind of digested it for a day and a half. And then we went to dinner last night and I was able to kind of verbalize what that was. And I saw the double of joy. You know what I mean? And so,
in how?
In her being able to react to what it meant to me, I think. And by me being able to like find the words for it, and tell her about it, I think there was this, it's almost like how blessing like expounds upon itself. I could feel that in the moment of like all of it just like going exponential, you know what I mean? And, so these practices, I think, they're right on for me. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, which is really great for a person who's not very good at celebrating or being joyful.
The same. Thank you for sharing that.
We brought her on, Chris.
Thanks.
I have a question. What does it look like because I feel like this helps us gain awareness in the mundane. At least that's what I'm hearing. What about the chaos and like the actual depth of pain? To like have the energy to like almost not feel so distant from trying to be grateful for something, or in your experience, what is like a realistic view or timeline of like what it would look like for someone in the depth of just losing someone? That's like, there's no rush to this, or no, this is actually available to you, even in the middle of you just losing this big piece, or is it just takes time? Like, what does that look like for someone in the middle of just a dark season?
Yeah, I love that question because toxic positivity would be an angle not on this book. This book is very not toxic positivity.
Explain what that means. That would just be...
Yeah, so toxic positivity expects what is good in life or what you might be thankful for to cancel any hard feelings. So both can't be true. We're going to pull you right out of that grief. And that is so unhelpful.
And huge right now.
But isn't that what God is supposed to do for us?
Right. Because God is good. Nothing hurts. Nothing. Everything makes sense, right?
Yes. And God is so good. And life is so hurtful and painful at times. And so being able to honor that both are true, and in the spirit of that, I think your celebration will look different in a season of suffering. It is not going to look like confetti and, laughter. And although there might be moments of that, but so it will look different, but you can practice it concurrently. And I was confronted with this a few weeks ago. I'll just share, our community experienced the most horrific tragedy, a car accident that killed a young man. Obviously very sudden, very unexpected. And it was an awful day in Connecticut, like just right above freezing and wet and windy, and all day long I just had this urge to go to the beach and pick up sea glass, which is something I do almost daily, and it's my favorite way of spending time alone with God. And I thought, well, that is so interesting. I mean, who would want to go outside today? It's so awful, but I couldn't ignore it. And I realized, okay, what does celebration look like when you're suffering? It looks like remembrance, remembering who God is, remembering the ways that He has been faithful in the past, even if you have no earthly idea what the next minute, let alone the next day or year is going to look like. Reflecting on who God is, who He's been to you. That is how I celebrate when I'm grieving. And no, it doesn't look like confetti.
Right.
But again, going back to those Old Testament celebrations, they were about remembering God's goodness. They were not a reward for our own goodness.
Yeah.
And so that remembrance component, I think, is for us today, too. That's what their celebration was about. And even the year of Jubilee, which just sounds like a year-long party in the title, they forgave all debts. They released all slaves. They returned all property and land to their original owner. It was all about release. And in those areas that they may have been tempted to replace God, they celebrated God as their ultimate security and kept a light touch on those things. So the year of Jubilee was about remembering God as their ultimate security.
Swish on that.
Yeah. I think there's a freedom in knowing that in the middle of the dark seasons, it can easily feel like not everything is being offered to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like pain is offered to me right now. That's what it might feel like. But when you really understand that celebration can look different, but celebration is still being offered. Like the invitation is there. You know, comfort is still being offered, might not look like how you expected. That frees you to celebrate the things that haven't changed, which is God's presence completing you.
Yeah.
I feel like if I had known that in my grieving, because I lost a brother in 2011,
I'm sorry.
I think it would have helped me not feel so removed and isolated that I'm still unpacking today. I think I would have walked with Jesus through my grief. Instead of just like hiding it and then finally learning how to share it. If I'd known like you can still celebrate, but it will look different.
Yes.
But it's more of an expectation, not a lack of, offering from God to you.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
Yeah, that's so well said. I was talking with Jess Connolly, who wrote the foreword of the book, and one of the things she said was, pre-pandemic, I feel like this rhythm of celebration would have strengthened me for what I needed in that painful season. And it reminds me of Nehemiah 8:10, where the joy of the Lord is our strength. Delighting in Him, His character, His faithfulness. There's a strengthening component to it. Like you said, even if it doesn't look how we typically think of celebration, a party, there's a practice and a rhythm to it that's strengthening for the simultaneous pain. So I love that you shared that.
The practicality of this is really great because and how it builds like snapshot to a practice of joy. Like we're going to do this because we do it. And then the right siding the expectation of what it's supposed to provide us, I think is really interesting. Because I do think most of us think it's only a reward to have joy, but not a practice that we can step into all the time. And being able to switch that is powerful, I think, especially in those walks more.
What stops people then? So as you're a therapist and you're meeting with people and you're walking through this stuff all the time, you're like, there's a groundbreaking new book. Baby steps, but what do you see in people? Like, what's stopping us, what are the barriers? When you talk about fear.
Yes. So this isn't an exhaustive list, but there's about 5 reasons that seem to come up over and over again. The first is that fear piece where we're afraid of the other shoe dropping. If I hold joy, it's just going to get taken away. Easier to keep my expectations low. The second is we're just waiting for a reason to celebrate. So we're not practicing celebration as a rhythm.
Which I know some people that would be a real, they live in that space of like, well, nothing good's ever happening.
Yes, exactly. And they think they're perfectly willing to celebrate if that good thing came along.
Right. Gosh, that's so profound.
Which is interesting because you're talking about celebration existing in the past and present.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it as a future only kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That it's a rhythm available to us now. The third is we are unsure how to reconcile this invitation to celebrate with our value of humility. We see those as mutually exclusive instead of something that goes together actually quite beautifully.
Say that another way.
So So I'll just speak personally.
Yep. Thank you.
I have discovered that my hesitancy to celebrate is actually a sign that I have made that celebration about me. This false humility of, can't receive any affirmation, or I'm just not going to make a big deal of this because it draws attention to myself.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a sign that I've made the thing about me. But when I recognize God stuffed these gifts inside me, He gave me opportunities to use them. That's all Him. I celebrate freely because I just get to say, look what God did. This is so fun for me to get to be a part of, but this is His movement in my life. And this is His design of me for the purpose that He gave me so I can bring Him glory. And so that's the heart of David when he's, going wild with celebration when they bring the Ark of the Covenant in, and people are looking upon him like, this is so inappropriate. Yeah. Michal, Saul's daughter, had some strong opinions on that. And he's not celebrating to draw attention to himself. He's celebrating because he recognizes he's been the recipient of grace. And so humility and celebration actually, I think, go together more than as opposing forces. And then the fourth reason is obviously we're all a part of community, and not everyone lives the same kind of story at the same time. And so how do we rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn when our stories look different? And so usually what we default to is just staying quiet. Like if I'm in pain, I'm not going to rain on anybody else's parade and be a downer. So I'm just going to stay quiet. If I am celebrating, I'm not going to hurt somebody else and be insensitive. So I'm just going to be quiet. And our default is to do both alone. And the joy comes from doing both together. And then the fifth reason is something that I experienced personally, but hear it a lot. In that dark season, in that season of pain, a totally different relationship with God formed between the two of us. And that was so precious to me. The ways that I grew in that season, the ways that I came to know God differently in that season was such a special gift of that pain. And I was sad when I realized, having grown up in the church my whole life, I had no context for what it looked like to intimately engage with God in the light of my joy. And I was scared that growth would go away, that closeness with Christ would go away in the light of my joy. I don't think that's true, and have since learned what that looks like. But I was really afraid that piece would go away. And so my tendency was to kind of lean back into the suffering where I felt that closeness versus engage that joy.
Totally.
Yeah. And I think it's a reflection of how we understand God in our own personal walk with Him. Because for me, for a while, I thought, if I celebrate this or if I lean into the joy, what if He takes it to just teach me a new lesson, shape me again, make me more complete? Whatever I thought was this idea of God's true desire for me is to always be a better, more complete version of myself. So this gift is so for now, but it could be taken away at any time because that's the kind of God He is.
Isn't that funny that we just balance our experiences of, I've lived a really bountiful celebratory season, so now it's time for Him to teach me a lesson. And so we have this sort of ledger in our minds. I have the same thing, and that circles back to the fear component of, if I hold this, surely my turn is coming next, or that God is always. I even say in the book, I walked with a God who was always eager to teach me something for a long time, and wasn't able to move through the joy in my life. Was only ever I thought the good in my life would always look like broccoli on a dinner plate. Good for me, but not particularly exciting. And so
such a good visual.
I really resonate with that.
Yes. And do you think that is going to be, maybe not, I don't know, but a topic post-pandemic, just a fear of celebrating anything because everyone lost their jobs. Yep. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people lost people. A lot of people lost homes. And what if there's another pandemic? What if we hit another thing that just like, what's the point of rebuilding or rejoicing? Do you think that's going to be like...
I think it already is. Yeah. And I think it will continue to this hesitation around joy and celebration. And that is why I'm so passionate about celebration being a rhythm and not something that's circumstantial, because I used to go into a new year with so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Just the transition of one calendar year to another with all this talk of like dreaming and vision casting and goals, it would give me
Y2K must have been stressful.
We're still unpacking Y2K. That's what it is.
Right. But just this idea of like, I hope I have a reason to feel joyful. And I saw that conversation so strongly since the pandemic started. Like, this is going to be our year. It's as if there's something magic about the turn of the calendar.
Yesterday.
But just being able to say, no, regardless, we have celebrations available to us, and we have a reason to celebrate, even if there's not an obvious shift in our circumstances. So I'm hoping that the pandemic helps our celebration lean toward the eternal and like we said earlier, reorder what we love, so that we're not just chronically disappointed by expecting more joy from these gifts that they're not meant to give.
So good.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have done a lot of rethinking our thinking on things. So we see the word repent is to rethink your thinking on all these things. And so we've been rethought blessing and just blown our minds to church, to all these different things. So this is almost rethinking joy for us.
Wonderful.
Us, rethinking celebration.
Yes.
And joy.
Which leads, does celebration lead to joy? Or is joy, how does that work?
I think celebration is a practice that cultivates joy in our lives. Sometimes we experience joy because we kind of get hit in the face with it in life, and we celebrate. Sometimes it does look like that, and that's okay too. But I think more often, in a more empowering perspective, is practicing celebration is what cultivates joy.
So good. So good.
Man.
Thank you.
Glad this resonated.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You guys want to start the podcast?
Yeah, I think
Can you hit it, George?
That was the 3 hour of therapy.
Totally. So guys, any other problems that you have?
it's a few things.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into 10,000 thoughts.
Okay. Awesome.
That sounds like a funny joke after what I just
But it's actually just a silly
this
game.
is just like speed round, dumbness.
Okay.
It's going to be great.
If you need to drink some water, go right ahead.
This is where it matters, okay?
Yeah, because your husband sent us a few things that were a little inappropriate. I thought this was not okay for me to read. You know what I mean? So, anywho. Okay, cats versus dogs.
Dogs.
Ooh, gosh, it's so amazing.
We've been
It's a
receiving
visceral
that.
reaction every time.
I'm not afraid of many things in life.
You're afraid of cats?
Terrified of cats.
Do you think they're going to kill you?
Yeah, Chris really thinks they're going to kill him.
Okay, we could talk for like a really long time.
That's fine.
So I had very strange jobs when I was a kid. And one of them, well, my first babysitting job, they had 4 cats.
Yep.
Not kids, cats.
Yep.
And one of them,
kids?
2. One of them's name, the cat's name was Muddy, and he was not supposed to come out of the basement because he was super mean.
No.
And I used to give these
Which came
kids
first?
glow in the dark stickers, and they'd put them on the bed, and we'd turn off the lights, and we'd see the sticker light up.
Yeah.
And I was walking back after turning off the lights toward the bed, and this cat, Muddy, had gotten up and was hiding in the bed.
Son of a Muddy.
I mean, out of a horror movie, like leaped off the bed with glowing eyes and clawed my face. So that was one experience. And then I house sat. It's a very wealthy family that had the house for them, and then they also had a house for their cats up the driveway as one does. So,
Like not just like a little coop, like a cat
no, I'm
coop.
talking like its own address,
Yeah.
like a
Shut
family
your
of
face.
5
Amazing.
could
Oh my
live in
goodness.
this place. Yeah. And so they had, I think, 4 cats in there as well. And everyone had a different like need, and I was
Yeah.
just so scared.
Oh
whole time.
my goodness.
So not that and I hope I don't make your listeners very
Yeah, you've
angry.
already pissed off a lot of people. Yeah,
We've
this
lost
is
so
super
many
great.
cat lovers,
I'm
but
not the biggest animal person in the
Yeah.
world. I appreciate them, but I'm not like passionate about animals.
We have a couple dogs you could
oh no.
Yeah.
put back up to the Connecticut's.
but I do prefer dogs for obvious
Man,
reasons.
it makes sense. The numbers add up.
Okay,
Wow.
cats versus Satan. Go. Just- they're about the same.
Yeah.
Okay, gosh, I really would love to go deeper into that whole story. 'Cause we should carefront those people. What if we went and carefronted them?
There you go. There you go.
Okay. We don't want to confront.
Yeah,
we want to
that's-
carefront.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Again, I've got 2 shrinks as parents. Okay, currently reading or watching.
Oh,
Guilty pleasure and for good.
I finished it, but I'm a Yellowstone person in terms of watching. Reading, I am going through now, of course, The Way of the Heart by Henry Nouwen
Yes.
with my spiritual director. I love that book. And I'm not finished with it, so I always hesitate
Yeah.
because with my luck, it would take a weird turn the second half of the book. But I'm enjoying a book called The Personal Librarian. It's like a historical fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's some real characters in there. So hard to know if maybe there's some truth to the story.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Is this end times related?
Nope.
Okay. Just
It is not. It is not.
We
Add
can
it
get
to the
to
list.
Rapture or
Sorry. Okay, something on your bucket list.
Oh, bucket list. I need to dream more, apparently.
Celebrate your bucket list.
That's right.
This is a speed round.
It is a speed round. I would really love to go to the Holy Land sometime. Yeah. I would like do one of those
The whole
tours
thing,
and learn a lot about what I'm seeing and see the Bible from a different perspective and the stories in it from a different perspective. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, let's make that happen. Celebrate that. Okay, pet peeves.
Oh man, I have a really hard time when certain people chew.
Oh yeah.
Like
Certain
the
people.
noise of yes.
like your husband.
No, he's pretty good.
Kids?
But no, my family, thank God, is okay. But
Yeah, even
it's
if
not
it's-
even the person all the time. It's the food.
Yep.
I also want to know in what scenario you're close enough to someone who's not your husband and children that you can hear them chew.
A lot for some people.
Is this
people
like
you
chewing
don't have-
ice, carrots?
Like
Ooh.
chips really
Yeah,
gets me.
yeah. No, I got cuss words already coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, and an apple can be really
Yep.
bad.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
And it really, like, I'm a pretty patient person, and I'm like white knuckling my seat. Like,
There's a thing about that. You know, there's like some kind of.
I've heard it's a sign of intelligence. I'm hoping
Well,
that's
oh,
true.
interesting.
obviously, it's because no, but there's like an actual syndrome or something that
I must
in the
have it.
DMS 3, 9,
Okay.
12.
Yeah.
But there really is. So if you're listening, people,
Oh,
please
man.
comment and say it's called
The right word,
Dis-
whatever it is.
I
Shortly.
have
believe
it
it.
for sure. Never seen it in the DSM, but
Yeah.
I'm grateful
No,
to know
I'm
there's a term for
I'm
it.
sure it's
What is like 12th version? What DSM are we to at this
5.
point? 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Like revised edition or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, something you celebrated this week,
Oh, what a great
other
question.
than being on this podcast.
Yes. I celebrated this trip to Nashville. I got to meet a lot of people that I've known for a long time online, and just fun to hug people again and get to say hi face to face. So
Love that.
that's been really good. You all included.
Obviously. I mean, that's,
Thank you. Thank
you guys,
you.
for the first 20 minutes she was here, she just kept talking about how great this podcast is. So it's hard for me to just look you in the face and not go, she loves this.
Season 2 on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Oh my goodness. Not sponsored. Could be, but we'll talk.
Well, Nicole, thank you for being on with us.
Thank you so much.
This was
Thank
such
you.
a gift to me.
This is really helpful for us and for our people.
I'm so glad.
Thank you. So everybody check out her book, What If It's Wonderful? And her next book is super exciting. It's called Cats or the Devil.
Cats and Glow in the Dark Sugar, some memoir.
Yes.
Talk with my publisher about that one.
Okay. Thank you, Nicole.
Zasowski. I just like her last name.
Yeah.
And I want to
it's a cool
celebrate it
name.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't celebrate her name enough.
True.
We just did.
But that's okay.
Well, but we did. We're doing it behind her back, which is better. But it's
Like
better
to
to
her,
do.
to her face. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Oh, I didn't want. I just don't want to offend people because I don't know. We're not like BFFs. Like so many
That's
people we've
true.
had on
I
here,
know.
I can just make fun of them because we're BFFs.
Yeah.
But I want to be BFFs with her. She's
Seems
awesome.
like a fun person to hang around.
Amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the comments about MFT. It was great. I loved how celebration should be a practiced rhythm.
Yeah.
So we talked so much with 10,000 Minutes about rhythms, putting these rhythms into our days, not just on Sunday morning, but like all week long. What are the rhythms that we're putting into our lives that are just helpful? These aren't like getting us more loved by God, but they're rhythms that help us be
Yeah.
more aware. And so when she talked about how celebration in and of itself is a practiced rhythm, not
Right.
based on mood.
Yes, or occasion. And I think that was the beauty of rethinking celebration as a rhythm, because when you celebrate something consistently, you realign with your reality in a sense. If not, if you're constantly waiting for something to celebrate, you start to believe nothing's worth celebrating.
Yeah.
So there was the beauty of saying, what if celebration is more of a realigning? It's cultivating something than a really big high that we're constantly chasing in life, because everything else is low compared to it.
Yeah. And celebration should be done in community.
Oh,
Like with
yes.
others.
Like everything else.
Yes. That's the beauty of
Yeah.
all these episodes. When you share it with people, you know, there's just a bigger picture. You're seeing something richer. Things are just clear. And she talked about how celebrating with others has a power. There's
Yeah.
a power to it. There's some healing to it. And it invites other people. That's the beauty, right? When I celebrate something with you, I'm inviting you to also value celebration in your life.
Yeah, and who are you celebrating? Who am I actually going and seeing something in somebody else and celebrating them, which also is helpful for my soul because it takes me off of my own story and everything that's going on with me to go celebrate with somebody else. And then it's helping them celebrate as well. That's really beautiful.
I think celebration is really like, I think with myself, if I'm celebrating with myself, it's pretty subdued in my head. I'm really not celebrating unless I'm doing it with other people. You know what I mean? And so it just becomes like exponentially better with other people.
Yeah, that's a good call. And then celebrating, she talked about celebrating in tough times, in heartache,
Right.
which,
Because we're rethinking what's worth celebrating.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about the good moments, the moments we don't have stress or struggle. It just
Right.
doesn't exist. It's about
Right.
celebrating that we have another day. There are still people around to help comfort. There's still enough strength to make it through. Those things are worth celebrating as well.
I think
Yeah.
it's important too that it's not either or.
Right.
Right. And so oftentimes, like especially Christians, we kind of do this like we're either awesome or not. And that's just not life. You know what I mean? And so she's holding those things realistically. Like, no, we can actually celebrate and have joy even when like things are hard and even when things are bad. And those things, they work together. And if we're honest with ourselves, that's the most healthy place to live and the best place to be.
yes. So, guys, that is the practice for this week. This practice is pause and celebrate something today.
Yeah.
So that would be, you know, as I've got this X on my wrist, what's that thing for you that might just remind you to pause and practice celebrating something in your own life with other people or in somebody else?
And we want to know what you're celebrating too.
Yeah, that's a good call,
So please
Maury.
leave a comment. Check us out on social media. We love hanging out and hearing what the community, the way you guys are expressing each practice as well. And we learn from you as much as you guys learn from these conversations.
Totally. So, thanks you two.
Such a good time.
And also, hey, thank you, Sarah T.
Woo, Sarah T, let's go.
And here's the deal, Sarah T. Sarah T and Diane V. So these are just two more people who are giving every single month to 10,000 minutes. You can give monthly, weekly, however you want. One big thing.
Daily.
What did you say? Daily? You can totally give daily. But it's just supporting and partnering with what we're doing. And if you guys want to check out the 10,000 minute text messages, you can text 10K10K to the number 55678. So the number is 55678 and text 10K in the subject.
If you'd like a handwritten note from Tim Timmons.
What do you do? What should they do?
Well, you just, what did they used to say in the commercials? Like, you like have to mail in. I can't remember.
Yeah. So if you guys want a handwritten letter, figure it out.
Okay, yeah.
So thank you, both of you guys, for supporting what we're doing. Truly, really meaningful. And I just wanted to say something about Sarah's name. I ask this every time I meet a Sarah. I say
with an H or
no H?
Yeah.
So how many are there more H's, do you think?
I don't know. I was thinking about the Ben Folds song. Zach and Sarah, because he has a lyric about Sarah without an H.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Well, this is a Sarah without an H.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
And I think there's a personality there that, like, you either have the H or you don't.
I feel like H's are like more conservative Sarahs.
Huh.
Without the H, just a
little more sassy.
little sassier.
Sarah T, I want to know if you're the sassy one or not.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay, and also Jennifer C.
That could be my sister. Thanks, Jen.
Yep.
If it's not you, then
Thank
thanks,
you anyways,
thanks,
Jen.
Jennifer.
Thanks for not supporting
You're like a sister. Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you for listening. Thanks for being a part of this and watching, doing whatever you're doing.
See you next time.
Ciao.